Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have review of this device, which is the Infinix Hot 40 Pro. Let's get started. This device, like many Infinix devices, is positioned very focused on gamers. In fact, it has a partnership with Free Fire. So we are going to try to go quickly in other sections and we are going to focus a lot on games. First, you should know its launch price. In Mexico, it has been 5,499 pesos. That is around $300. Remember that the prices here are not the same as there. The exchange rate can vary a lot, and in Mexico taxes are included just to take it into account. So we are talking about a device that will have several competitors. Surely it is going to stand out a lot in performance. So come with me to meet it, but first I must tell you that in Mexico it has a distribution through Liverpool, Suburbia and Mercado Libre. Although in Mercado Libre its price is much lower, so I would recommend you to buy it in Mercado Libre, where it currently costs 3,290 pesos. It is a much more attractive price, and definitely at this price it will be difficult to find another device this powerful, so let's start reviewing it. In design, it's a device that's not going to look too amazing, especially on the front, as you notice that the bezels are noticeably thick, and even though it has a circular cutout on the camera, it doesn't look that advanced or modern. The bottom bezel is also noticeably thicker than the others and does not include Gorilla Glass protection. So in all these sections on the front, there is a weakness in the design. On the right side is placed the power button with fingerprint reader and volume buttons. At the top is a secondary audio output, and on the left side is placed the tray where we can have 2 nano SIM cards and a micro SD card. At the bottom is the headphone jack, a microphone, the USB port, and the speaker. All these frames have a design that looks like metal, but it is evidently plastic, simply with a very reflective finish. And in this profile view, we appreciate that it has a thickness of 8.25 millimeters and weighs 199 grams. And as you notice, the back cover has a very nice design. So while on the front it looked a little ugly, on the back it looks really nice. With a design that appears to be brushed with a color gradient that combines yellow and blue, it honestly looks nice. Even the camera module is surrounded by another frame with gold metallic look. It looks very nice actually, although it doesn't offer us any level of water resistance. And besides this edition, which is called Titanium Gold, it is available in Obsidian Black color. The screen is 6.78 inches in size, but interestingly the ratio looks quite wide. In this case, the resolution is Full HD Plus of 2460 by 1080 pixels. This gives us a pixel density of 396 pixels per inch. So the images will look quite detailed. Likewise, texts will look very sharp, although it is a panel that we could say that it is simple since it incorporates IPS technology. So the best visualization will be from the front, but from the side we will notice that the brightness drops dramatically. So it is a device that we could consider individual. If you like to show things to your friends, they're not going to have the best experience. But looking at the content head on, it looks good quality. It doesn't support HDR content though. The screen reaches a maximum brightness of 500 nits. So for indoor use it's fine, but outdoors it falls a bit short. And the minimum brightness notes that if it is low enough for comfortable use in the evenings. And fortunately in the accessibility options also comes the extra dimming option that can help you to have an even more comfortable viewing. Obviously, in addition to the dark mode, there is the eye care option, which will be a blue light filter that is available on the vast majority of devices, and this display features a simple adjustment of its color, so it doesn't feature various calibrations. And definitely in all the settings you'll notice that it's a display that looks simple, especially when rendering the white color and the yellow color. You're going to notice that it's not a very accurate color. But as a positive thing, it reaches about 120 Hz in its refresh rate, and it can adapt automatically, so if it is able to show you fluid movements. And this can become useful both in the user interface and in some specific games. In fact, it also has a feature called Ultra Touch that is going to allow you to optimize the speed of touch response. In this case, it can reach up to 1200 Hz, although by default it's at 240 Hz. So definitely for gamers, this is a very useful piece of information, especially if they want the most agile response when making gestures or touches on the screen. The sound is stereo, not only integrates a speaker at the bottom, but another speaker on the top that shares two audio outputs, one that is placed in the frame and another in the earpiece area for calls. So if we offer stereo sound, and that is something very positive, it is also a sound that has good quality, although it does not have so much presence of bass frequencies. But if it offers good amplitude thanks to the incorporation of two speakers, let's listen to a small test. Although remember that it is not the same to listen to it live. And in the sound software also comes with a good complement since it supports DTS sound, which has some surround sound presets. And it also offers us a 5-band equalizer, which is not that extensive, but if it appears available even without the need for headphones connected. So with this simple setting, it puts it above many competitors. In addition, it also incorporates headphone jack, something that will be very important for gamers if they want to have zero latency. And with respect to audio codecs, to connect wireless headphones, note that not only supports SBC and AAC, but also LHDC in its version 3, and it also includes support for headphones with LDAC, so it does support wireless high-resolution audio. This device only integrates a microphone, which is unacceptable in this price range. Definitely one of its weakest points.
Esta es una prueba de audio grabada con el micrófono integrado del Infinix Hot 40 Pro. Hay que tener cuidado. En el momento de tapar el micrófono podrías tener distorsiones.
Even capturing the voice, I consider that it is not very good. Definitely the microphone may be the weakest point of this device. Below you will see a video recorded with this device to see how it behaves in very high volume environments.
I wanna say forever, we could be good together. There's mystery, lost company. Better too late than never. You know we could do better. So take a chance and run with me. Everywhere we go, we turn to.
And as you can see, although it does not become completely distorted, if we can notice certain distortions, although overall it still sounds good enough in these environments, but definitely the fact of not offering stereo sound recording, it is a very weak point in this price range. The front camera of this device is 32 megapixels, it has f2.2 aperture and fixed focus. It can get to offer you a fast aperture setting by pressing twice, the volume down button, but the device obviously must be locked. If it is unlocked, this gesture will not work. The device looks snappy enough in this kind of scenario, when taking pictures of yourself with the front camera. It notes that it has a separate beauty mode where we will find different styles of beauty and facial retouching with a single selector to modify its intensity, but also brings an option of makeup by artificial intelligence and also allows you to customize individually parameter by parameter how you want your skin to look. Also the color of your skin can thin you and a lot of parameters. More in the settings also allows you to enable a capture mode by touching any area of the screen or also by touching the fingerprint reader, but as you realize it does not support the gesture with the palm of the hand, which I consider a weak point because it can become a little more complicated to reach the fingerprint reader to do this action, plus you have to leave your finger on the reader to be activated. This front camera seems to me to be of very good quality. I really liked the level of detail it is able to reach, especially because in this price range you usually find selfie cameras of much lower quality. It has fixed focus, but even stretching your arm you will come out well focused, so you could have a group photo with 2 or 3 more friends, but if you are very close to the camera you will probably come out a little out of focus in backlight conditions. With 2 or 3 other friends, but if you are too close to the camera, you will probably come out a little out of focus in backlit conditions. Note that some areas are overexposed in the preview, but after the capture I think the result is good and still maintains good detail, and in this case the brightest areas come out with the correct exposure, so I can confirm that this is a good camera for you. I confirm that the front camera has surprised me for good at night. You will need a well-lit area so that the result still looks good quality, but note how much more grainy appears in the picture. Fortunately you do not see an annoying noise and still maintains good quality textures, does not seem to have a pastel effect like other devices. Then the result I like notes that even in backlit photographs with this camera the result will be positive. I would not recommend much use the front flash although it is available, but with the simple illumination of the screen I think the result is good enough. Note, for example, the result you would have in a night portrait. I think it is remarkably good, at least at a quick glance. Obviously, if you get closer, you will notice much more the presence of grain and a very simple quality, but without zooming, the result looks good. Although in a portrait during the day, we realize that this device is not able to keep in focus the objects that are also in the foreground, so it is not so expert in that matter. But if you have no objects nearby, the result is going to be good and natural. And on the back, we will find the camera of 24mm approximately, offers us a sensor of 108 megapixels with aperture of 1.75 in its lens and also autofocus. In fact, is complemented with two cameras of adornment, one macro and another supposedly of artificial intelligence. So consider that only has a camera with a very good sensor, but only one camera, and like any camera will have a small delay in the preview, but after several attempts trying to capture the exact moment when it changes to number 3, can say that if it is a speed response speed, considerably good. If you hold down the shutter, you can shoot a burst of up to 20 pictures, although it takes almost a second to start. Therefore, it is not so recommended to capture the exact moment by touching on screen. You can adjust the focus and exposure, but remember that this device is also going to integrate a more advanced professional mode where you have the compensation, also the shutter speed that can reach up to 30 seconds, the made that can reach up to 6400 white balance focus type of metering, but it does not support raw pictures. And the QR code scanning action is disabled by default, but once you turn that option on, you see how a dialog box will appear at the top. Although it can be a little slow, and regarding the document capture, you see that although it detects that we are going to capture text, there is no special mode from the automatic function, but there is a special document mode. In this mode, the device can automatically crop this document and change the perspective, but it is only a cropped photo. You cannot add pages, you cannot optimize the colors and more. But even though it does not have a very advanced scanner inside the device, it does not have a very advanced scanner, but it does not have a very advanced scanner inside the device. Has a very advanced scanner inside the camera. Note that it comes with an application called Smart Scanner that will allow us to scan both QR codes and files, and in fact the scanning of files can be of several pages and finally creates a PDF document, although it does not bring some color optimizer to make the image look more realistic like a professional scanner. But at least if you can create a document of several pages, the device has a mode of 108 megapixels with which you can take pictures in this resolution, and if you meet really looks very good level of detail in this mode, then if you could extract pictures in this mode, you could take pictures in this resolution, and if you meet really looks very good the level of detail in this mode, then if you could extract pictures in this mode, then you could take pictures in this resolution, but at least you can create a document of several pages. This mode, then, if you could extract photographs from this photograph, and this is something very positive because other devices in this price range could boast that they also have sensors of this resolution or something similar, but then in practical life the result is very bad. In this case, you should know that if you get to give you a super detailed photograph in this mode, in scenes of movement, if it is able to keep people or static objects, and in general we can say that it is a camera that behaves well outdoors, although it is not completely free of a little chromatic aberration, but the truth is very little visible in general. It is not observed either. Very little visible in general. There are no major distortions on the sides, and obviously the colors also, as you are noticing, look of good quality, although in the zoom does not take advantage of the 108 megapixel sensor that has, because although it offers the shortcut 2x in this zoom setting, does not offer optical quality, and that is noticeable, so it is a completely digital zoom in all its settings. The maximum zoom is 10x, and I think it is fine, although it definitely could be even better if they took advantage of the maximum resolution of the sensor, but in this price range I think it competes well with this zoom quality. In backlit scenes, note that the preview still does not look optimized and looks overexposed, but then the processing does very well and the result is completely good and even maintains a good level of detail and balances perfectly lights and shadows, and the quality of the photograph really seems to me very remarkable even at night. From the automatic mode we have an excellent photograph I love that manages very well the most illuminated areas to not overexpose them, even though perhaps the darkest areas are still darker than we would like, but it manages very well the noise too, and the quality of the photograph really seems to me very remarkable even at night. From the automatic mode we have an excellent photograph. I love that it manages very well the brightest areas to not overexpose them, although perhaps the darkest areas are still darker than we would like, but it manages perfectly well the noise too. And note that with the night mode will greatly increase the sharpness of the photograph. Even in the darkest areas it captures more details. The noise practically disappears, although it looks slightly artificial with a sharpness that is a little above the natural, but for some publication in social networks would be attractive. Note, for example, that in the darker areas where there is no longer a lighting present, there is more noise and little definition in the automatic mode, but with the night mode, the noise is practically eliminated, although it is a scene more illuminated than natural, but I insist that in some scenarios could result as something positive, although if you are one of those who like the most natural photography as possible, you will not like much. The curious thing is that even with the setting of zoom, if it allows us to use the night mode, and the difference is quite noticeable between the automatic mode photography and night mode photography that, as I say, comes to exceed the sharpness at times for macro photography. The main camera meets good quality, although the characteristics of the sensor does not allow you to get too close to small objects, but it seems to me that the result is still good. If it retains the optical quality in some zoom setting would be even better, but I definitely prefer the result of the macro photography better. But I definitely prefer the result of the main camera, that this result that is offering us the macro camera, that from my point of view is much worse. So the main camera I like for macro photography, so from my point of view should not incorporate macro camera and better invest that budget in something else. The device also incorporates a panoramic mode, although it is not in high resolution. Then you can get to have wide pictures even without the ultra wide camera, but you do not have a high level of resolution. Ultra wide camera, but you don't have a level of detail as high as we would like. And as you see in this portrait picture, it is confirmed that the supposed artificial intelligence camera is completely useless. It is not able to detect the foreground to keep it in focus. So the portrait pictures could look very artificial if there are objects nearby. If there are no objects, the result could be remarkably good, but it definitely has low capabilities in this picture. For video recording, Infinix always tends to excel in resolution, as it doesn't stay stuck at full HD, but also offers you 2K resolution, which is slightly higher, but it does give you more detail. And in fact, you can record in 2K with both the rear camera and the front camera. When recording video, you can tap to adjust the focus or exposure. We will also have a button to take pictures and to pause or resume your recording, but you can't turn on the flashlight or rotate to the front camera without first having your video recording, although interestingly in this button, if you are going to find facial beauty options when recording video, but the video resolution drops towards HD. You will also notice that there is a button to activate a higher stabilization mode, but the resolution again is set in this case to full HD. Remember that this device has the ability to record video in 2K. That is something extraordinary, because the level of detail, if it will be far superior to what we can offer other devices in this price range capable of recording in full HD, then speaking specifically of the level of detail meets perfectly and is its strongest point color, it seems to me that it also manages it in a good way. Maybe the exposure could have some important jumps when recording. Unfortunately, the stabilization is quite simple and you start to notice it from the zoom. In this case, the maximum zoom is 10x, but I insist that what affects is the stabilization, because really the quality of the level of detail is good. It seems to have some important jumps at the time of being recorded. Quality of the level of detail is good. It seems that if you get to take advantage of the sensor information in backlight conditions, also has a good performance. Even recording in 2K notes that the image looks well balanced in terms of exposure, unlike other devices that could get to have aggressive jumps when you stop detecting the face if you lower the exposure slightly, but it's not an exaggeratedly aggressive jump. Then I like the video recording quality, although you notice that the white balance changed drastically at the end of this clip, but you should note that it was a day where it was cloudy and constantly clearing, so right at that moment it got cloudy, and that's why it was noticeable like that. In the evenings, we confirmed that it is a device that has good video recording capabilities, although in these scenarios there is more noise present and is reduced to 25 frames per second to try to capture more lighting. But for the price range, I think it manages to compete in a very good way. Is not as capable as in photography to balance lights and shadows well, but I like how it handles noise while maintaining a high level of detail, unlike other devices that raise too much noise or try to reduce it to the maximum, also eliminating the details, but in this case is a very good quality video. As I anticipated, recording in 2K, we will not have a good stabilization, so you notice the very sudden movements when walking, and obviously when running will be noticed even more, but this device incorporates a mode of greater stabilization that will be in full HD, but it is definitely very useful for these scenes where you're walking or even running, although when running a certain level of vibration is perceived a little strange, and especially the white balance will notice that it can change drastically in this type of modes. Something curious is that this device also incorporates a portrait. Recording mode incorporates a portrait recording mode where it will blur the background, although the quality is not very high, so you immediately notice that it is an artificial effect. The hands are not detected very well, and if you are constantly moving, it seems that the effect is chasing you, does not have very good accuracy, and it will not change the intensity of the blur depending on your distance. In fact, when you move far away, the effect is completely disabled and obviously will not be able to keep focused on the objects in the foreground, but blur absolutely everything that is not part of your body. Something remarkable is that this device also incorporates a slow motion mode and has two settings, although both are in HD. The first would be about 20 frames per second, not so slow movement, but it is well, and the most spectacular is 240 frames per second. I think in the price range very few devices will support, so it is a remarkable feature. However, in this case maintains the HD resolution, which is something basic, and it also supports a fast camera mode, which is also going to be in 2K, so the resolution is something positive, but its speed setting is from 15x, which may be too fast for people movements, but for recording landscapes or even plant growth, it could go up to 5400x, a very unusual speed in smartphones, so it has good capabilities in video recording. Finally, regarding video recording, the focus seems not to react with so much speed, but at least I think if it has good stability, i.e. it is not refocusing. Finally, with respect to video recording, the focus does not seem to react with such speed, but at least I think it has good stability, i.e. it is not refocusing all the time, so it can pass as a good parameter in video recording. The front camera also has the ability to record video in 2K, and that is a very positive section for the high level of detail that reaches, although it has no stabilization, and that can play against, especially if you want to record videos type blog while you're walking or something similar. And as you can notice, the backlight performance is very basic, as it will burn the entire backlit area. Then it is more advisable to record with the light from the front, but the resolution is very good. However, at night there will be more noise present, although this helps to keep the textures faithful. Then at night, if it would be more advisable to turn on the front flashlight that incorporates the device, although in this case I did not do it because it did not suggest it. I think the most appropriate would be that immediately when it detects more darkness, automatically turn on the flashlight, as the amount of noise is quite excessive, so that could spoil a little your video. Therefore, it is more advisable to record in good lighting conditions, but for the price ranges very well. This front camera also offers us the fast camera mode with the same settings that I was telling you about the rear camera, although it does not integrate front slow motion, but curiously it integrates a portrait recording mode, blurring the background, although in this case the resolution drops towards HD, so it is a really low resolution, but for some simple recordings it could be attractive. The effect of having blurred the background. However, if it is important that you do not move too much, because otherwise again it will seem that the blur effect is chasing you. And finally, this device also incorporates a dual recording mode, something unusual in this price range, and it is definitely another point that I could consider as a strong point. The recording quality is in full HD, and the frame, you can move it along the screen, although it has a small stop on the right. It doesn't allow you to resize that frame either, but it does keep the zoom enabled, so it can be very useful for some bloggers or something similar, and it also keeps the zoom enabled, so it can be very useful for some bloggers or something similar, and it also keeps the autofocus enabled. In fact, it also allows you to record in a split screen mode, although again without stabilization. So the lack of stabilization is what makes me a bit disappointed, because I really like that it offers this dual recording mode, but without stabilization it doesn't look that appealing. On the software, this device comes with Android SE, which honestly disappoints me, because in the middle of 1 and 4, just when Android 15 is about to come out, we would like this device to come with Android 14. And on Android 14 runs this custom system by Infinix called XOS in its version of 7.5. Fortunately, the manufacturer promises 2 years of software updates with 3 years of security patches, but coming out of date from factory, we practically wasted an update, so it is definitely not something very pleasant, this. As for added features, Infinix usually customize a lot your operating system. In fact, I could say that comes overloaded and saturated with many options, but let me mention some highlights. For example, has an application called Freezer, where you can somehow hibernate certain applications that you do not want to be consuming battery to be running in the background, but you want to have them installed for some time to use them in the future. In the main launcher also comes with this special page that has some additional information, and as you realize, this edition comes customized customized with a special theme of Free Fire. But speaking of the themes, remember that there are more themes available here by default, or you can download more themes, then in that aspect has good customization. But speaking specifically of Free Fire includes some animated backgrounds that could also be interesting for fans of this video game. Personally, I do not know them, but there is each of them so that you can use them. And the operating system in general comes very poorly translated, so it shows that it is a very immature system, still has a long way to go to be perfected, but notes that brings a function that will allow us to select a video as wallpaper when you call us. In addition to customize the sound, we can put a special video, and also has the traditional option of many Chinese manufacturers to go customizing the wallpaper dynamically. But in this case, at least if funds are going according to the device with the theme of Free Fire, Infinix also has its own artificial intelligence called Folax, and in this case for Mexico, and these regions still do not have so many functions, although there are other countries where there are more options. For the moment here we only have the translator that curiously will allow us to translate a specific area of the screen or even a complete chat, which is quite curious if you work with people from other countries. In fact, you could also translate by voice in this simple application, or also translate images through the camera. Google Lens style translation of chats works with these applications, but apparently no option is enabled. In my chats should appear a small floating button, but in my case for some reason does not appear. Maybe this should be perfected, but the idea looks good. And it also has a sidebar where you can have shortcuts to screenshot tools, and you can also open applications in this floating window mode. By the way, these windows, if you can resize them and also place them wherever you want on your screen. In fact, you can also minimize them if you slide them to the side, and you can open up to 2 applications at a time in this format. Note that even YouTube is compatible with this format, so the experience is going to be quite nice. YouTube is compatible with this format of applications, therefore the experience will be quite nice. In fact, also Instagram then very well in this sense, but there is a suite of options where Infinix usually highlights a lot, and is called Social Turbo. In this case will offer many additional options to enjoy. In WhatsApp, for example, you could change the style of your voice during video calls, so simply turning on this when you are in a video call will appear more additional options. Also has the Timoji, which is also very focused on video calls. Then let's try these options along with the video retouching, and note that in this case I'm already in a call and immediately appear these additional options. Note that brings a button to modulate the voice differently, brings 4 characters, and also we will be able to activate a character above us. Note how we can replace our face, simply the result. Obviously that might look a little weird, but you can also create your own Timoji and customize it completely to your liking in absolutely all the parameters that you want. And finally, note that there is also a button that will allow us to turn on the front lighting to have a better experience while you're calling, even in dark areas. And note that already appeared a button to translate the chat, but I just saw what is its operation. You must write a message and then the translator will change the text to the other language, so it is not so advanced. Also has an option to record calls, something that WhatsApp usually does not offer, and also a quick view mode which would allow you to read the messages without them being marked as read in WhatsApp. Finally, it also has a sticker creator that you can take advantage of to insert all these elements, and they will appear directly in the sticker packs of WhatsApp, although WhatsApp already includes a sticker creator, so it is a bit useless, that option. It also has a tool called Video Assistant that will show you more tools when you are in an application that contains videos. You can take screenshots, block notifications, or even modify the volume with a simple slider, in addition to launch applications in a floating window mode. And note that also has something called Magic Ring. When connecting to load your phone, has this animation inspired by Apple's Dynamic Island that will show you some simple information, but note that, for example, the timer will not be minimized in that area but is displayed as a small floating window. The sound recorder will not be minimized in that area. So there are really few tools that you will be able to enjoy there. And finally, it has a wide variety of gestures that you can take advantage of to automate several things on your device. As I said at the beginning of this section, this system comes ultra saturated with options. See, all the applications that are available here all belong to Infinix, and if you add them with applications that belong to Google, the system comes really loaded with several pre-installed applications. So I hope you will enjoy it. I wish Infinix would work a little more on perfecting their system to simplify it a little and improve their translations. By the way, to finish this block, the device integrates an optical motor in the Z-axis, so it is not so advanced, the optical feedback, and also the operating system does not have so many gestures or actions that take advantage of this vibration. The device integrates a side fingerprint reader that, as you realize, works well. Just put and remove your finger. You do not need to leave it for a long time. Also supports 5 different records, and curiously, you can also take advantage of this fingerprint reader to accept calls or record calls simply by placing your finger on it. Also supports facial recognition, but as you know, it is simple in this case only in 2 dimensions, so it is not so recommended to use it, and also includes Google Smart Lock to keep the device unlocked in various secure environments such as places or trusted devices. And curiously integrates an anti-theft mode that will allow the device to issue an alert in case you were connecting it to charge and then someone has disconnected it, so it can become useful. Is something I've only seen present in Infinix also. You can have the option of shutdown verification so they cannot turn it off. So simple, and obviously also offers additional tools such as application locking. Also, we can hide applications, and we also have a file backup in the function called X-Hide where we can save images, videos, applications, recordings or documents, and we can also clone applications. Has a secure keyboard that supposedly will prevent some crook can see your passwords or something like that. Even has an anti-spy filter that, as you know, will help people who are next to you are not able to see all content but only the section that you are marking, so it could be useful. And it is another tool that I have not seen in other devices. The password manager is from Google, so you can fill in the forms verifying first by your fingerprint, and in this case the operation is correct. In this case, Infinix does not integrate a private VPN, and that could be improved. However, note that it does include a child mode that can be very useful when you're going to lend your phone to a small. Even also brings a bad posture alert and activates the visual care automatically. You choose which applications will be able to use the child, and obviously to get out of here will be necessary to verify with a pattern or with your fingerprint. In this case, also through the phone master application can access more options and, for example, do a scan against malware, in this case in collaboration with TrustLock. The battery, as in many devices, will be 5000 milliamps, and in this case gave me an autonomy of 4 hours with 14 minutes in my extreme draining test, running in the foreground that draining application and running this application in the background while watching videos in the foreground. The device increased its autonomy to 4 hours with 36 minutes, I think. Hours with 36 minutes, I think it is well within the average of what we could expect from batteries of this capacity. In this case, we will also find a traditional saving mode and an ultra saving mode. Although again, in this section you can immediately notice the poor translation of several terms. At least in Spanish the words are not adequate. The charger included is 33 watts, and with 15 minutes recovered 28% of the energy, with 30 minutes reached half of the battery, and the full charge finished it practically in an hour. And 20 minutes, I think it is within expectations, is not something surprising or disappointing. In this case, obviously, we will not find wireless charging or reversible wireless charging, but curiously, if you have reversible charging, i.e. it can function as a power bank to power other devices as long as they do not also have reversible charging, although obviously it will be very little power, so it will not be a fast charge or something like that, but it can be useful. And finally, regarding the care of the battery, please note that this device does integrate a smart charging that will learn your charging habits to charge slowly when you leave it charging all night or something similar, and this will not damage and deteriorate the battery so fast. In the connectivity section, this device supports 4G networks through its SIM cards, although it does not support eSIM, so if you go traveling you will miss that function. And in this case, within the Phone Master application, if you can enable a control of your mobile data in addition to the saving modes that can incorporate. Remember that you can determine which applications can connect to the internet with your data and which applications must do so via Wi-Fi. In this case, supports Wi-Fi networks 5, but despite that, it offers a very good download speed. So in this sense, the experience is very good. Also offer us NFC to do mobile payments or link you to accessories. And speaking of accessories, comes with Bluetooth 5.2. Curiously, also brings FM radio. So in this price range is possibly one of the few devices that still retain this feature. feature, although you have to plug in headphones. Also has the option to project your screen wirelessly in mirror format, but you cannot do it via cable, and obviously also integrate Android Auto and sensors. Do not make any sacrifice as it incorporates the geomagnetic field sensor, also gyroscope, and also a physical proximity sensor. So in each sensor parameter is very well. The Infinix ecosystem globally is still very short. Hopefully soon present some accessories such as headphones or watches that I do not doubt that are available in some countries, but in general is still very limited ecosystem of the brand itself. But remember that belonging to an open ecosystem as Android can enjoy technologies such as Quick Share or Google Fast Pay to link quickly to other accessories or to send and receive files. But in that sense, it is also very dependent on the brand's own ecosystem. In that sense, also looks very dependent on Google, although curiously, Infinix even incorporates its own application store called Palm Store, and as I told you, has many applications developed by themselves, in fact also have Infinix Cloud, but for now is only able to synchronize contacts, blocked numbers, and Wi-Fi keys, but does not offer photo backup or something similar. However, it is a good step forward, hopefully soon offer more. And in the quick settings panel would come the hole for Google Home. But since the application does not come installed, does not even give you any control, so you have to install Google Home and do all the settings, Infinix still does not have its own application to control the home or something similar. Let's talk about performance. This device incorporates the processor MediaTek Helium G99, a processor that we have already tested and has always given us a remarkably good performance. Obviously always depend on the price, and in this case I think it could get to meet if you get it in free market, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where you will find it at a much lower price, will surely be the most attractive thing you'll find. Also comes with 8 GB of physical RAM and another 8 GB of virtual RAM, so it is very interesting in terms of the maximum capacity of its RAM. But at the time we tested, if you really take advantage of it or not, it took 3.9 seconds to open each application. Seems to me that it is not a very remarkable time. Possibly RAM memory is not as fast despite having a good capacity, although that information is not officially disclosed by the manufacturer, but using the device we realize that it is not as fast as it should be. The device, we realize that it is not ultra fast as we would have liked. At least the experience that has given us this processor usually tends to be a little faster here. I think the device behaved a little slow when opening these applications, but once the applications are open, it seems to me that has maintained a good performance. We have not seen so far any reboot, which speaks very well of RAM memory management that incorporates this device. Then although it is not so fast, at least does not get exaggeratedly slow at the time of having opened many applications. As you can notice, the device goes remarkably well. And let's now navigate in an application notes that in this case also will give us a good speed navigation when using such applications. Is not free of some small stumbling, but I think in its price range as well. In addition, we will offer 256 GB of storage. Probably that is one of its strongest points, although again the manufacturer does not clarify what version of storage is, therefore do not know if it is a fast storage or not, but at least the capacity is very good, so you can store there any amount of photographs. So let's do a test where they are involved. The 3 most important elements of the performance of this device, the processor, the RAM and the storage, is a video with a total duration of 1 minute in full HD, although the clips were recorded in 2K, so there we could give an additional work to this device compared to what we see in other devices that we have also tested, and we already have it took about 31 seconds. I think it's fine considering they were videos with a little more resolution than normal, but let's not say that it is an ultra powerful device. Regarding the games, this device incorporates a special mode to enable more options while you are playing. In the settings, you can choose which games will enable these options and also display some other tools like managing the appearance of notifications, so you can have notifications that go in sliding strips or you can hide them completely. You can also have reminders to clear you from time to time and avoid being addicted to your cell phone. And interestingly, also brings an option that changes the style of colors and screen representation that we will show when we are playing. Then when you open a game, you see that it shows some of the tools you will have available and has a small sidebar on this side. Here will appear shortcuts to various applications and also basic functions such as screenshot, both image and video management of Wi-Fi network connectivity, and also a button to clear the memory. Also has 3 different modes of performance, a balanced one of maximum performance and another battery saving depending on which one you want to use. It also has a frames per second counter, although I do not know if it is very accurate. It is also able to show the latency and the CPU and GPU consumption that you are doing. It has another category also of additional tools like blocking the screen brightness. It also brings an option called off-screen games, although again we see a bad translation to Spanish, but this button will allow you to suspend slightly your cell phone without closing the game to continue downloading certain content but without consuming as much power. Also includes a button to control the temperature if you are charging the phone while you're playing, and could also get to manage the temperature in your game without having to be charging to avoid getting to overheat. You can hide notifications and, as I said, show those notifications on a tape, and here you could change the speed at which the tape is sliding. You can also disable some gestures to avoid making unwanted actions on your screen, and you can change the style of your voice. Very useful for games that have voice chat. By finally has an option called Magic Boron that will allow us to use the volume. Buttons to press any button on the screen, so you just have to select the option and map where you want to use the volume buttons to press any button, so you just have to select the option and map where you want to use it. The games that have voice chat finally has an option called Magic Boron that will allow us to use the volume buttons to press any button on the screen, so simply select the option and map where we want to place these buttons, just hold down and then drag it to the area you want, and ready to see that now simply pressing these volume buttons could interact with our game, and that is a tool that generally at this price is not available on other smartphones. In Call of Duty, this device gives us the default medium graphic quality at a medium frame rate. We can also go up to a high rate, but in this case, this processor is not so compatible with many graphic effects, although at least 3 are available there, plus an experimental function. So having this graphic configuration, we realize that the device goes with a very good playability. I insist that this processor, we had already had it in this price. We can also go up to a high rate, but in this case, this processor is not so compatible with many graphic effects, although at least 3 are available there, plus an experimental function. So having this graphic configuration, we realized that the device goes with very good playability, that this processor, we had already tested it previously, and it has always given us a good performance. This will definitely not be the exception. It is going to give us a good experience, although don't expect it to be able to reach 60 frames per second. But overall, I think the device, if maintains a remarkably good performance, although in the price range, I think it gets to compete well, possibly rivals like the Little X6 or the Moto G50.6 or the Moto G54 could give you 60 frames per second. But there really are few devices capable of beating this in this price range. In the case of Legends, we changed the automatic setting to a manual setting, selecting the low graphic quality at 60 frames per second. And in this case, it was definitely very noticeable that it managed to exceed 100 frames per second at very specific moments, although it was only during the first stage of the game, and it was also fluctuating considerably high. So later it stabilized at 60 frames per second, which is something that this game usually does in all the devices we tested. And once it stabilized at 60, it maintained very good stability with some small low peaks. But overall, the performance of this device is going to be very good, and the temperature also controls with good quality. Temperature also controls it with a good quality, which is another point to consider, as there are other devices that may offer you more power, but by heating the device more in the SpongeBob game, the device by default gives us the medium resolution and quality. We left it at that setting, but we went up to 60 frames per second and disabled the smoothing, and with this configuration the device was quite unstable, does not maintain a straight line in monitoring frames per second, but does not go below 26. So if you are not so demanding in this regard, if you will have a good experience, but if you are the most demanding in games and you would like to have more graphics options enabled, you will have a good experience. But if you are the most demanding in games and you would like to have more graphics options enabled, you will have a good experience. Would like to have more graphics options activated, it is likely that this device does not have the capacity yet to give you, for example, good stability in this game by activating the smoothing. If even with the smoothing disabled, it did not give such a stable experience. But even with the screen recording, you yourself are realizing the performance that it reached. So evaluate if you have a good experience with it. So evaluate if this performance is good enough for you, or do you require more. Finally, we tested Genshin Impact by default. It is on very low quality, and in this case we upgraded to low quality some things, we upgraded to medium quality, and we also upgraded to 60 frames per second to do the test. And in this case, I definitely think that the most suitable would have been the Genshin Impact. Definitely, I think the most appropriate would have been to play in very low quality, especially recording the screen is a complete disaster, goes very wrong. So the right thing to do in this device is to play simpler content, and especially you will not be able to record gameplays. And considering that it is a device very focused on gaming, possibly in this section could have improved, especially considering the launch price. If we consider the price at which it is, for example, in free market, would be too good performance. So everything will influence depending on what price you find it, but can become a good tool to play without having to spend so much if you find it on promotion. And for now, this has been all regarding this Infinix device. I hope you liked the video. As a conclusion, we could say that it is a device that should be sold cheaper than its launch price if you want to get to stand out, because in the launch price is owing in some sections, but for example in the free market price would be as a very well balanced device with very good power. For now, this has been all. I hope you liked it and see you next time.